your microphone on?
Good evening. I'm going to call the meeting to order for February 17th. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If I could get a roll call vote, please. I have on the excused list Chairman Kabicki, Supervisor Dodge, and Supervisor Hallman. Did you have anyone else call in?
No, but Supervisor Noble's not here.
I see that. So the other ones will be marked unexcused. We're going to move on to citizen comments. If you have anything to speak on, please stand, state your name and address for the record, and you will have 5 minutes to speak. Anyone for citizen comments? 5 minutes to speak. Please state your name and address for the record, sir.
You got to turn them on. Gallery. Turn podium off.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm here to speak to item number 75, which is the issue of a probationary cabaret license for tire benders. And I'm here representing the agent. Unfortunately, the agent has a medical emergency in his family and couldn't be here tonight, but he requested that I speak on his behalf, and I am. What I'm here for is to ask for the vote of the board for granting this probationary cabaret license. It's my understanding that the location of tire benders qualifies in terms of the requirements for its location, its the measurements which were taken for seating or for floor space. In addition, all of the ordinance requirements have been met, and so it again comes forward here, for the granting of this probationary cabaret license. And I wish to speak to a few issues. The location is open 7 days a week during the summer and 5 days a week during the winter or non-summer hours, closed on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So it's a full-time operating location that has events, music events, mainly on the weekends. And there have been issues in which have been arisen in which the Sheriff's Department had been called in the past to assist or to deal with problems or issues at this location. I do want to report that in response to those issues, the owners and the agent undertook the retainment of Wisconsin Elite Private Police, which is a professional private police organization. The owner is here present, and again, we are here to address concerns too, so when the item comes up on the agenda, we will remain here if any member wishes to have further questions or concerns addressed by either myself or the owner, Josh Polchinski is here, as I said. The current professional and organization that provides security is well-trained, well-equipped. They are trained by former law enforcement, retired law enforcement officers. They are trained in security tactics, crowd control, crowd diffusion, if you will, even firearms. If some of the members have firearms, they're fully licensed. All of them, both as a security operator or officer, and if they have firearms under firearms training, which they received from a retired law enforcement officer. And as I said, since September, when the new group came in, there have been over 20 events which have been taken place, and the only call for service was sent in by the supervisor, who is a auxiliary Milwaukee police officer off duty but working for this security enterprise, called when someone reportedly had fled with a firearm. They were able to identify this person for law enforcement in a professional and calm manner, and commensurate with the training and the quality of the services they provide to the owners and the agent at Tarbenders. So that one call, and we understand that there are crowds that are there, but again, we don't have where you have a series of large riots or fights. There have been incidents back earlier, over almost a year now, and about a year, maybe in February, and then somewhat later during the summer, which again has been addressed by this new group. So for over 6 months now, you don't have those issues or problems, and the place has operated, like, as I said, over 20 events without having adverse reactions from law enforcement on an everyday basis. Now, I'm sure law enforcement has had to be aware of crowds, had to be aware of extra patrol, and that's, I was in law enforcement for many years, and you end up having to patrol areas in which there are potential issues. That's a normal operating procedure for law enforcement. But I also believe that the owners or the agents and the security operatives have always cooperated fully with law enforcement. So having said all that, what I'm looking for, again, and this is a probationary license, which means if there are problems or issues, that could be, the license could be, as I understand it, discontinued or revoked at a short notice, even if granted. So there's always this oversight that the county board and through the sheriff's department as well has over this license. And I believe that the license holders, or in this case the agent and Tarbenders, meets the criteria in order to grant the license. So my issue is there's not a, as I understand it, a legal issue or a factual issue which would on its face preclude the granting of this probationary cabaret license. So respectfully, I'm here on behalf of Tarbenders and Agent Jesse Downing to ask this body to vote in favor of granting that probationary or that temporary, if you will, but probationary cabaret license. And again, I'll conclude by advising that if someone has a question or issue when the item comes up, I will remain here. If someone would wish me to call myself to the podium, that would be obviously no problem. So thank you for your time and your attention.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else for citizen comments? Citizen comments? Any others for citizen comments? Okay, citizen comments are now closed. We will move on to the announcements of the chair. I have a couple of them. I have a notice that I'm to read here. We would like to thank David Arrington for his years of service on the Kenosha County Board and to the constituents of the 10th District. Chairman Konbicki, in consultation with the Corporation Council, has decided the seat will not be filled prior to April 5th spring election due to the time requirements involved to seek a possible successor. If there are issues of the constituents for the 10th District that require immediate assistance, Chairman Konbicki asks that they contact him via the County Clerk's office at 262-653-2552 or email him at edward.konbicki@kenoshacounty.org. And then the other one, everyone has on their desk, I believe, something from NAMI. On Monday and Tuesday of this next week, they're going to have their Crisis Intervention Partnership. Registration and lunches are free and arranged by the NAMI Kenosha County chapter. So if anyone wants to join that, they can go ahead and get that called in right away. That's all the announcements that I have tonight. Supervisor reports. Supervisor Elverman, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have a couple of things. It's all things I've been reporting on. The Ashmore, we're in a constant motion on that at the logging company that's been working for the county this winter. Weather, some soft conditions have played a little hand, but they're going at it. They even moved another crew in this week. So they started at Fox River Park this Monday, and I've been out there the last couple of days, and they're moving along and they're hitting all the lowlands with this warm weather coming by the weekend. They are still working at Pets, so we have both of those parks closed at this time. The golf operation is busy booking their leagues They are doing very well. They're ahead of last year on their bookings and on their outings. The rates the committee passed at our meeting a week and a half ago, and we are going to be having the same rates on both golf courses as last year. We had a very nice surprise on something that we passed in the budgets this year for irrigation on the Blue Spruce course at Brightondale. Our bids came in $100,000 lower than anticipated. So we have that's a very large savings on irrigation. Brookside, the ongoing move for the spring start of construction, our bids came in at almost 7% higher than anticipated. So for the last 6 weeks, almost, we've been working on value engineering, trying to get ourselves in line with the budget, and that was accomplished last week. So we are at budget, same operations, same facility being built, and everything is on schedule for a early April start. The pretrial building, we had some cracking that was investigated. We had the engineers come out. Pretrial building is sound. There's some surface cracks. Very minor work to be done there. When I say very minor, we're looking at just some caulking and crack filling, so it's not a major operation. The highway department, if you remember last year, we started doing a major study on all the roofs owned by the county, which are numerous. When you talk the job center, the old theater, and everything that we've got. One of the highlighted and in need of most work was the highway department out at the county center. That is about 22 years old now. And that was the first one that we took bids on. They will be in this week, and that is going to be a spring-summer project. But that's what I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor Elverman. Supervisor Decker, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Vice Chairman. The Planning and Development Extension Education Committee meeting met on Wednesday, February 10th. We passed a conditional use permit for Country Thunder in Randall for a country music festival July 22nd through the 25th, 2016. Normally we see that conditional use permit in July, so it was nice to see it early. It will be getting another thing that goes before Judiciary and Law, activity license. So we will see it again. We will see it actually on the county board floor at that time. And then for the PDEC portion or the extension education portion of the meeting, we discussed the youth and governance. Wanted to let everyone know that 172 nominations came in for youth and governance, and the applications were mailed out on February 11th. That is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Decker. Supervisor Boyd Frederick, you have the floor.
Thank you. Through the Counties Association, there's been numerous bills that deal with county issues, including zoning and other requirements that we may have to face up next year. Once the session gets over with, which will be tomorrow, I will be able to give a full report on how it will affect Kenosha County. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Frederick. Supervisor Gens, you have the floor.
Thank you, Acting Chair Vice Woman Kim Brunig. I wanted to give you everybody a report on our Joint Services Public Safety Software. We do have a delay in the go live date of about 3 months, not because we're having any type of problems, but the people doing a lot of the work already have other duties in joint services, and some of the time management is people are spread a little bit thin. So we're moving through everything. There's no hiccups or problems. We're just looking at a slight delay in the flipping the switch. So I will keep you posted on that. If anybody has any questions or concerns, feel free to speak with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Gens. I think that's all of them. All right, any other supervisor comments? Supervisor reports? Oh. Supervisor Esposito, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just wanted to make the board aware of the 2015 Federal Inmate Detainee Housing Revenue Report. I had our secretary email it to all the supervisors. We had 199 per day allowed in the budget. We came in at 198.14. So I want to commend the Sheriff's Department and the administration at the correctional institution for that. This year, we have been up. Our numbers have been real good. I believe we're almost about 230, 240 for January, roughly. So I just wanted to make sure all supervisors had that information. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Esposito. Any other supervisor reports? Supervisor reports? Okay, we will move on to county executive appointments. County Clerk?
County Executive Appointment 28, Judy Jensen to serve on the Kenosha County Commission on Aging.
Refer to Human Services.
Policy resolution, first reading to required from Finance and Administration Committee, a resolution to approve the social media use policy. Rose, yes. Ron Frederick, yes. O'Day, yes. Kohlmeyer, yes. Brunig, yes. Jeff Gens, yes. Dodge, excused. Resolution 70, from the Finance and Administration Committee, a resolution to approve the amendment of the Consolidated Kenosha County Revolving Loan Fund Program, Economic Development Revolving Loan Fund Manual. Hallman, yes. Gable, yes. Johnson, excused. Decker, excused. Arrington, excused. Blau, yes. Retzlaff, yes.
Supervisor Rose?
All right, thank you, and I would move resolution number 70.
I have a first by Supervisor Rose and a second by Supervisor Ron Frederick. Supervisor Rose on the motion.
All right, this what is called the Kenosha County Revolving Loan Fund. These are state funds given to Kenosha County for economic development through the Wisconsin Department of Administration. And this is the manual that is used by CABA in administering those funds. What is before you are a number of amendments to update the rules and regulations which govern that loan fund. And I would focus basically on two of the amendments. One is an updating of the competitive interest rate that CABA might use to loan money under this fund. Now, that interest rate, if you look at the manual, requires a minimum of 4% interest. Well, this was adopted at 4% when interest rates nationwide were 7-8%, so 4% seemed very low at the time. Well, today 4% doesn't make us competitive. So this reduces that possibility to 1%. That doesn't mean that CABA will suddenly turn around and give 1% loans to all applicants under this county revolving loan fund, but at least they have the possibility of going as low as 1% or certainly not up to 4% because that just isn't competitive nationally. This fund, if you ask yourself, well, who are the people or who are the businesses which might be applying for this fund? This money is, I say, the basic outline of it is governed by the state, and it is aimed at disadvantaged groups, minorities, female head of households, W-2 recipients. The second change in it is how do you calculate the amount of money that CABA is authorized to loan to some prospective business? Before, and I'll give you this example which was given to the committee, before if a particular business said, well, we will create 10 new jobs. And again, this loan fund is aimed at creation of new jobs or retention of old jobs. How do you calculate how much money is possible? Well, now the maximum that can be loaned is $750,000. How do you get to that number? Well, you say as a business, I'm going to pay $35,000 for each job created times the number of jobs to be created, not to exceed $750,000. Before, that $35,000 was $20,000 per job, so the maximum amount was certainly less. 20,000 times 10 would be $200,000. $335,000 now is $350,000. So those are the basic changes, which I think are good updates for the use of the county revolving loan fund for the funds that we receive from the Wisconsin Department of Administration. If you have any other detailed types of questions or other description, we do have a representative Cava here this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Rose. Supervisor Decker.
I believe the clerk inadvertently read the wrong vote. Can you please read the correct vote into the record? Thank you.
I actually did read them, and then I skipped over one, and I don't know how the folders got mixed up, so I apologize. I caught that, but I didn't want to interrupt Supervisor Rose
On that committee, so.
for the record. I read the human service rule. I got it. It's right here. Rose, yes. Frederick, yes. O'Day, yes. Colmeyer, yes. Brunig, yes. Gens, yes. Dodge, excused.
Okay, on the motion, is there any discussion? Any discussion on the motion? This is a simple majority. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes.
Resolution 71 from the Human Service Committee, a resolution to approve the county executive appointment of Barbara Wisniewski to the Kenosha County Commission on Aging. Allman, yes. Gable, yes. Johnson, excused. Decker, excused. Arrington, excused. Blau, yes. Retzlaff, yes.
Supervisor Retzlaff?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. I would like to move that we suspend the rules and approve in mass resolutions 71, 72, 73, and 74, and waive the clerk's reading of such resolutions. Thank you.
He has to read all those. She has to read all those in, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. She does have to read them all in.
I'm asked to suspend the rules, all.
Okay. So I have a motion by Supervisor Retzlaff to suspend the rules and read them all in at once without the clerk reading them. I have a second by Supervisor Gens. This is a 2/3 vote. Roll call has been requested, so we'll go ahead and do that. This is to suspend the rules. Yep, 2/3 present. No, we have to wait. Okay. Motion passes. So now she doesn't read them, right? Okay, you don't have to read them.
They read them all, and then they vote on them all at once.
Yeah, nope, they're just,
Okay.
okay.
Right.
You just voted to not have them read.
No, I voted on suspending the rules that do it in mass. I think they should be read into the record and then voted on. I asked the chair of the courthouse, should they be read into the record?
Go ahead, Joe.
I think proper order is to read them into the record. I think that unanimous consent could be sought to consider all of them as a group, which is what the chairman of the committee tends to do. The motion that was before the board was to suspend the rules, to waive the reading, and to consider them as a slate. That motion passed to suspend the rules. So.
Okay, I apologize. I thought we were just suspending the rules to take them all at once. I think we should be read into the record. Thank you.
Okay. So the motion was and passed that we suspended the rules. They are all going as one. They are not being read into the record. Does everyone understand that?
They're all four different people.
Yep, they are all for different people. Okay? So this is a simple majority. Oh. Supervisor O'Day.
I just had a question on resolution numbers in the packet are different than what's on the yellow sheet. So is that going to make any difference? Robert Wisniewski is 72 on the white sheet. On the yellow sheet, it's 72.
There was an email sent
71.
out. There was an email sent out, Supervisor O'Day, with the amendment, the amended
I have the
order.
amended right here, but I don't have these numbers in the packet. Or did you change all the numbers on the resolutions?
And you emailed it. They're online, correct? They're all online, and my chief deputy emailed you the link to go online to see the correct lineup. So the hard copies were not correct when they were mailed out because they were amended after we put them together and
Okay.
sent them out.
Whatever.
Supervisor Ron Frederick.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the motion to suspend the rules was made and passed. Now, don't we need a motion to approve them, all of them at one time? Don't we need a second motion?
We had a first and we had a second. The
Wait,
motion
You had a
was-
first and second to suspend the rules.
Correct.
You suspend the rules passed. Now you need a motion, I believe, to approve them all as one.
Yes, we're getting to that.
And I so move.
You so move. Okay. So it was first by Supervisor Retzloff, second by Supervisor Ron Frederick. All those in favor of approving all of these appointments en masse, vote aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes.
Okay. Resolution 75 from Judiciary and Law Enforcement Committee, a resolution to approve a probationary cabaret license for Tarbender's Bar and Grill. Esposito, no. Anita Johnson, excused. Boyd Frederick, abstain. Arrington, yes. Ron Johnson, yes. Leah Blau, excused. John Poole, no.
Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move Resolution 76.
I have a first by Supervisor Esposito and a second by Supervisor Poole. Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Obviously, there is some issues in regarding to this probationary cabaret license. I'll start from the beginning. Tarbender's Bar and Grill was discussed at length even prior to this probationary cabaret coming before us due to the violations and the calls and other issues that were happening at this establishment. So our committee had discussed Tarbender's before this probationary cabaret license had come before us. The probationary cabaret license had come before us because there was a change of, they said management or ownership, but the management and ownership is really the same person. With that being said, in our committee, we discussed with Mr. Downing, who was there, the issues of our concerns in regards to this cabaret license. He tends to put on what you would call hip-hop parties from February 15th to January 16th. Obviously, Mr. Downing's representation is here. We've had, I'll just go through it, responding to a report of a fight. Security used OC spray inside the tavern to break up a fight. This was in February of 15. And again, February of 15, deputies observed approximately 40 people actively fighting. June, anonymous report, wanted subject out of the tavern. Tavern was closed when deputies arrived. Another one in June, 911 hang-up. One in July, tavern checked. One in August, responded for a shooting in a parking lot. One subject was shot in the torso. No suspect information. Another one in September. Another 911 call. Another one in October, a disorderly conduct complaint. And Mr. Downing did change his security staff in October, which we told him at the committee level we appreciated that. But in December 13th, there was a tavern security reported fighting and arguing at bar close. Subject was gone upon arrival. Again, we discussed this at length, and the committee vetted the whole issues. The issue came with, as I told Mr. Downing, I have an issue because I don't really want government dictating somebody's ability to run an operation. But when it becomes a public safety issue, or becomes a safety issue to our employees, which are the county sheriff deputies, we need to take a look at this, and we need to take a look at it seriously. There's a big issue with exiting the property, with traffic control. I mean, it goes on and on and on. But he has made attempts to and we discussed this with him. This comes from Captain Weichert. It says, Mr. Downing has attempted to take steps to control the crowd. His attempts have been unsuccessful, as shown by the reports of fighting, a subject shot in the parking lot, and his professional security team needing to contact the sheriff's department for assistance. It does not appear that Mr. Downing will be able to control the events he advertises for. Due to these reasons, the Kenosha County Sheriff's Department cannot recommend a cabaret license for term benders be granted. With that, if any supervisors have any questions, Captain Hallisey is here and the other administration from the Sheriff's Department to further dig into this issue, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Esposito. Supervisor Decker? Yes.
That's what I was going to ask.
There was a tie in committee. It's still. Yep.
What's the problem?
You're on.
Since there was a tie at the committee level, we should not even have a resolution at the county board at this time? So any further discussion?
Corporation Counsel?
Ordinarily, that would probably be accurate, and we could delve into the intricacies of parliamentary procedure and the committee structure. The ordinance, however, is clear that the committee makes a recommendation to the county board. The county board has to make a determination on these licenses.
On a cabaret license?
Yes.
It's different than other resolutions?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Supervisor Decker, did you have anything else?
Oh, based on what the Corporation Counsel just said, is it appropriate to refer it back to committee since there was a tie?
There would be no reason that motion could not be made.
I would like to make a motion to refer this back to committee.
Who was that?
Ron.
Okay, I have a first by Supervisor Decker and a second by Supervisor Ron Frederick to refer back to committee. On the question? Who wants? Hold on, I need to clear the board. How do I clear the board? Mary, how do I clear the board? This one? Okay, now on the question. Who wants to talk? Supervisor Gens.
Yeah, through the chair to the Corporation Counsel, there's no discussion on the actual thing right now. We have to discuss the referral back to committee, correct?
That motion would
Okay.
take precedence.
Well, then I'm going to not support the referral back to the committee because I have a question in my mind I wanted to get answered. I mean, I don't have a problem with referring it back, but I have a question about the legality of everything before we move on. So I'll be voting against that.
Thank you, Supervisor Gens. And Supervisor Ron Frederick.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Almost said Mr. Chairman. The reason I made a motion to refer it back is that, I see one abstention, which I don't have any idea what that was about, and I see a 2-2 vote, and I appreciate the chairman's explanation of what happened, but I think we have to refer it back, and hopefully that the whole committee can attend the meeting, if that's possible, so that we can get a full vote of the committee rather than have 2-2 tie with one abstention. And that's the reason I made a motion to refer it back.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Frederick. Supervisor Retzlaff.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I guess I'm kind of along the lines of maybe Supervisor Gentz. Since this has to be approved by us anyways, what difference is the committee going to make, even if they voted all either in favor or against, because it still comes to us? Chairman of the committee, Supervisor Esposito, I think explained well enough what was the discussion at that level of a committee meeting. We had the gentleman here that's representing that organization here explaining their side, and I believe we have some sheriff's officers here that maybe can answer some questions. So I'm really questioning why we can't take care of this right now. We are here, they're there, nothing's going to change from the committee. So I'm going to vote against that, and I'm kind of curious tonight why anyone else would do that otherwise. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Retzlaff. I'm going to have the clerk read who was at the committee again, if she could, one more time, because if you listen to who was there and how they voted, the vote probably will not change.
Esposito, no. Anita Johnson, excused. Boyd Frederick, abstain. David Arrington, yes. Ron Johnson, yes. Leah Blau, excused. John Poole, no.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, on the referral, yep. Oh, Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you. I'm going to vote against referring this back to committee. I agree with Supervisor Gentz and Supervisor Retzlaff. This is, the sheriff's department, everybody's here, so why are we bringing this back? We've talked about this at length at the committee, and you know, whether there was a full committee or not, it doesn't really matter. I don't know if there's going to be a full committee next time. So this is, everybody is here, so let's deal with this issue that we have. I mean, I want the sheriff's department, supervisors should have the right to listen to what the sheriff's department has to say in regards to this establishment. So I'm not going to at all support referring this back to committee again. And I do agree, I don't think the vote will change. You know, whether it does or whether it doesn't, I agree with Supervisor Retzlaff. We're going to be back here doing the same thing. You know, I mean, we're going to either have to approve it or deny it, whether it passes that committee level or not. You know what I mean? So, you know, I think we need to deal with this now and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Esposito. Supervisor Skalitsky, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I concur with the three previous supervisors. I see no use to refer it back to committee. I will not support that motion. And we do have the representatives here tonight to get questions asked and answered so that we can make the proper vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Skalitsky. Anyone else on the referral back to committee? Okay, seeing no other lights. Roll call has been requested. Okay. Okay, the motion failed to refer it back to committee. So now on the resolution, are there any comments on the resolution? Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, I'd like to have Captain Halsey come to the podium and maybe shed even a little more light on this issue for the supervisors so we can, again, make the best informed decision for this issue going forward. Thank you.
Captain Halsey.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, Mr. Esposito, the County Board. The Sheriff's Department is not in favor of this Cabaret license based on a repeated problem that the tavern owner has, in our opinion, failed to address appropriately. As far back as February of 2013, the tavern came on the radar of the Sheriff's Department, if you will, where we had problems with tavern management not having licensed bartenders on staff. And then this Cabaret ordinance allows him to have entertainment, and the entertainment attracts a crowd that is evolved into something that's uncontrollable by the tavern staff and security officers, and ultimately has had the sheriff department put a lot of resources into controlling and responding to these violent events. The Cabaret ordinance, the Cabaret application, as was stated earlier by Mr. Keating, they do fit the geography requirement that they have adequate parking and adequate lighting, and they have a liquor license through summers. But it's the repeated conduct over the last year that has formed our opinion that we can't support this Cabaret application because of in our opinion, the inability of tavern management to control the events that occur because he has a Cabaret license.
Thank you, Captain Hallisey. I see some other lights on the board. Supervisor Gens?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I will be voting against this. I will be voting no for this probationary Cabaret license, but I do want something clarified. Through the chair to either Captain Hallisey, Supervisor Esposito, or Corp Counsel, I think the point that their attorney was making was that they've met the guidelines for a probationary Cabaret license. Are we okay to take recommendations in to deny it per our rules and regulations? What I'm asking is, because they meet the criteria, are they supposed to be granted that probationary license and then go through the probationary period and then a decision be made on it? Or are we allowed to just take the way the committee voted and the Sheriff's Department and deny that?
Corporation Counsel?
The ordinance on the Cabaret license indicates that upon application, the sheriff shall investigate the application to determine whether the place to be licensed, quote, will comply with all the laws and regulations applicable thereto, unquote. It was the determination of our office that this included a set of standard conditions that are investigated by the Sheriff's Department in regards to lighting, parking, exits, et cetera, but also could encompass ensuring that legal drinking age is adhered to, that criminal activity is not knowingly allowed to occur on the property, that the good order is maintained at all times, noise levels are controlled, et cetera. So the recommendation was made by the Sheriff's Department. The information was heard by the committee. The committee has now brought the matter before the board for a determination on the license application. It is the sense that that the committee and then the board needs to determine whether or not it's their belief based on the actual events, not supposition, not trying to look into the crystal ball, but based on the record and the evidence as to whether or not the applicant is able to comply with all the laws and regulations that are applicable, including whether granting it would negatively affect the safety, health, and welfare of the general population.
So that big, long explanation was basically a yes. We have the right to do that. So I just want to cover the board from a legal point of view, and I wanted you to make a ruling on that. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Gens. Supervisor Poole, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I voted against this at the committee level, and my reason for doing so was officer safety, because we have usually one or two deputies showing up and you have a crowd of 50 to 100 people, it becomes an officer safety issue. And the shift supervisors spoke to us at length, you know, if you have 7 cars out there and you have to divert 4 to tar benders, then, you know, you're getting pretty thin over the rest of the county. So my reason for voting against it was officer safety, and I hope the rest of you will consider that also. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Poole. Supervisor Skalitsky, did you have something? I think I may have skipped over you.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Captain Halsey, you brought up one additional thing that's concerned. Normally, I don't like to stand in the way of a business being able to operate, but when it takes, or public safety is called into question, that becomes a problem. One of the basic tenets of operating an establishment that has a liquor license is licensed bartenders, and they've failed to do that. Is there anything in your opinion that this establishment could do to win your support of a cabaret license, not necessarily tonight, but maybe into the future?
Part of the reason we formed our opinion is that after speaking with tavern management, he did hire security officers, and he did attempt to manage the large crowds and the violent nature that it seems to evolve at 1 a.m. But the security officers themselves, one of the security officers was arrested because he deployed his pepper spray in an attempt to disperse a 40-person fight. Well, he was a convicted felon, so we had to arrest the security officer because a felon can't possess pepper spray. Later that same year, with a different security person, that security officer called us and specifically told us, our officers, that he wasn't able to handle the violence or the volume of violence in the crowd that this entertainment brings. So right now, to answer your question, not immediately. I don't think we would support it now. There is a special event cabaret license, which I know the tavern has had a couple of times. If there was a pattern of special event cabaret license events that resulted in no problem, and we would certainly check on the tavern, we might rethink our position if he was able to show a pattern of being able to handle this type of event. But that's why we formed our opinion now, is because he's shown a pattern after we spoke to him that he was not able to, even on changing and adding things, to be able to maintain control of this to this crowd.
Thank you for that insight. I think it's valuable for all of us on the board to hear that. Public safety does become the key factor in this, and that is, it's not that this one establishment is the root of all the problems, but when you're having to pull in squads and deputies from the rest of the county, the rest of the county's public safety is in jeopardy. I do like the fact that there are some special event licenses that can be applied for and potentially granted. More or less, I look at it as my own children. If they misbehave, they get punished, and then they have to rebuild that trust. It's not that this establishment cannot stay in business, because it still has a liquor license, but it seems to be that the cabaret portion of their business is not well managed, has led to a problem for the rest of the county and the county's residents. And so at this point in time, I will not support this probationary license until this establishment can reaffirm with this body that it is a responsible business, a productive element of the community, and one that we want to embrace its ability to expand its business operations. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you, Supervisor Skalitsky. Supervisor Grady, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Through the chair to Supervisor Esposito, just a matter of the way the committee and protocol works in this situation. Has this particular establishment had a current cabaret license? Can you elaborate upon that a little bit?
Yes, I can. They did have a current cabaret. I believe it was a probationary cabaret, and they had a cabaret, but they came before us because they changed management. That's what I was informed of, but it went from the owner's wife to the owner, basically. So it was the same people operating the same establishment. So that's why they're in front of us with a probationary cabaret. It was brought up at our committee level that we were going to potentially take their cabaret license from them through a hearing situation, just because of all the problems that have been happening there prior to this change in management, which are the same people running the day-to-day operations. Again, I couldn't agree more, and I piggyback on what Supervisor Sklitsky said. I don't at all want to limit somebody from making a living or running their business, but at the end of the day, there is special event licenses this establishment can get to do the business that they see that they need to perform these, what you would call hip-hop parties. They can do this. So I don't think per se we're tying their hands 110% on this. But when there's bullets flying and someone gets hit and it's an innocent public citizen, I don't know how are you going to feel about that when you could have made a decision one way or the other. I guess that's kind of the way I thought about it. I hope that answers your question.
It does, but I have further, and that is the incidents that happened in February 2015 and either June or July 2015. What was the operating situation at that time? Was that a regular cabaret license, probationary? What was the status?
I believe that was a regular.
Okay. So they've had probationary in the past, they moved to regular, and we've still had these incidents, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Then the other chronology is October of 2015, they went to the new security
Correct.
regime, is that correct? All right.
Correct.
So that part I understand. Then through the chair, I would like to address Supervisor Boyd Frederick. It says here that there's an abstention. Can we comment on the nature of the abstention and why that was in effect?
I have a professional relationship with the owner, and I talked to Corp Counsel, and they said that there could be a situation where voting on that, there could be an issue down the road, so that's why I abstained.
I see. Those are my questions, Mr. Chair. Mrs. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Grady. Any other comments from supervisors? Supervisor Rose.
Question, the captain, are these fights, these big fights, are these rival gangs? Is that what we're talking about, or just random groups of people who get into a fight, or are these rival gang fights?
The entertainment that has been happening, historically happening at this tavern, is a crowd that we would describe as probably being involved in gang activity. The shooting that was probably the most violent of all of them, there were 3 separate weapons used. We found casings from 3 different calibers or 3 different weapons. Luckily, only one person was shot, not terribly injured. However, that speaks to the probability that it was a gang-related incident, that there was, such a violent incident where there's at least 3 shooters. The crowd, in our opinion, is usually gang-related, and the fights are sometimes 40 or 50 people are involved, and that's not typical of just a tavern disturbance. That's typical of something a lot larger.
Were there arrests made on these shootings?
The victim of the shooting did not want to cooperate with law enforcement investigators, and all of the witnesses fled the scene as the shots were being fired, and we got no cooperation from any of the witnesses. Again, typical or customary as in a gang investigation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Rose. Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like Captain Halsey to, if we can, have the administration from the third shift, Sheriff's Department, speak to call volumes, certain instances when these hip-hop parties, so to speak, are happening at Tarbenders. Can we do that, please?
Sure. I wasn't specifically at Tarbenders. Lieutenant Urquhart, Sergeant Zerline, Sergeant Ruth have all been at the point of that spear. They've all responded to these incidents. It's not just as stated in all of the violent incidents. It's the large volume of patrons that tend to foment the fight in the parking lot, that if we're present, sometimes the fight doesn't occur there. So we have an additional 6 documented cases where we were there and Lieutenant Urquhart and his crew were there. So I don't know if they have specifics that we might want to answer questions.
Well, I guess my question is, in your opinion, which was told to me at the committee level that you got 40 or 50, and I was even told maybe even 100 people out in this parking lot that are where they're fighting. I don't know, I'm not there, I'm not a law enforcement official. A deputy rolls up on this and they're concerned. I mean, am I right to understand that they're absolutely concerned? So sometimes backup does have to be called, so there's a wait time with that and so on and so forth. Is that correct?
That is correct. I don't know that there's a single reasonable law enforcement officer that would go 1 on 40 in a fight. Okay. One of the submitted reports, the officer that was first on scene writes in his report that there was a 40-person fight, so he waited for backup, and it was a number of minutes till the second deputy got there. And then this crowd has challenged even 2 deputies. We've requested assistance from the State Patrol and the City Police Department, drawing resources from those 2 agencies because 10 on 40 still isn't a fair fight for law enforcement. So.
And can you speak to the issue of traffic congestion moving in and out? Because that was discussed at our committee where the owner of the establishment said, I just get them off my property. How on 142 where Tarbenders is, it's just a 2-lane highway, correct?
Yes, this is Highway S, Highway 142, west of Highway H. It's a 2-lane county road, not terribly lit up. It's not capable of handling a massive egress of dozens or many more vehicles easily. So this to do it efficiently would require assistance to get that many cars out onto a 2-lane highway, and that's part of our manpower concern. And the quicker we can get them to leave the tavern, which is why security and submitted reports have documented, they're trying to push them out of their tavern and out of the parking lot so people don't congregate and then tempers flare, alcohol has been consumed. So they push, but the push is only as fast as the highway is capable, and a 2-lane highway can't handle dozens or scores of cars all at one time.
Correct. And at the committee level, the owner of the establishment did say, my only responsibility is to get them out of my tavern. So I'll get them out and shut the door. But that's not, in your opinion, where the problem really even lies. It lies out in the outside parking lot and or roadway, right-of-way, so on and so forth. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Supervisor Esposito. Supervisor Kohlmeyer, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just my question is regarding the paperwork that's in our packet for this specific cabaret license. I know normally we have the list of violations and times that the sheriff's been. I didn't see that in here, and I'm troubled just with the paperwork because everything reads, even the summary of the crime or incident says, based on my observation, I found no violations or reasons why the cabaret license should not be approved. I mean, if you read this, other than the vote, I don't see any issues why this shouldn't be approved. So, I mean, I'm hearing everything and understand the issues, but I don't know if something was just missed or I don't know. So I'm saying if without knowing the backstory, it would be helpful to have some of this in writing more. If the sheriff's department was against it, why would we write that we find no violations or reasons? On paper, I'm just having trouble with adhering with, I don't know. It's more of an observation. I mean, I get what everyone's saying, but without having the background, I would have no idea that we had these incidences, and I wasn't at the meeting, the committee meeting, but that's my comment, or I don't know.
Captain Halasidi, did you want to address that?
Sure. Part of the cabaret application requires us to get a local building inspector to say the building is within code. We also inspect to make sure that the tavern liquor license is valid and properly posted. We also inspect to see if they have proper lighting and they have proper parking, adequate parking. It's spelled out in the cabaret application. We didn't see violations of those sorts. And at the time of that initial inspection, when the deputy was there, he did not see violations of law like underage drinking, unlicensed bartenders. So that's what that line in that report indicates. The reason we cannot support this is the historical problem of the other violations that we've had of the violent incidents.
Okay, yeah, it's just a comment, observation, so.
Captain Hallisey, is it typical to not have that information in those packets?
The Cabaret application process is a brief process. In our initial application is simply, as stated, the building inspection, the parking, the lighting, the valid liquor license. The application fee has been paid and filed with the clerk. That's the basics of the application. It's the background that led us to the committee. And as Mr. Esposito said, the committee was soliciting our opinion about this tavern prior to this probationary cabaret even being applied for.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Supervisor Kohlmeyer?
No.
Okay. Supervisor Gens.
Thank you. That's exactly why I asked the question I asked, because the paperwork is that way. In the future, I have seen those if there was a negative recommendation from the sheriff, I've seen logs of what has went on in various cabaret licenses. So why wasn't that in there? And I think we need that in there in the future, especially if we're going to have a half an hour long debate and have that recommendation from the sheriff department. I think we all need that in our packets. So I don't know who needs to correct that, but I'd like to see that in there in the future. Thank you.
That would come from the committee. So Supervisor Esposito, if you could.
To that.
Okay.
I'll respond to that. It was obviously a 2-2 tie with one abstention. I'll take onus for that maybe more information should have been put in your packet, supervisors. I do apologize, but I'm sitting here with probably, I don't know, 50 or 60 pages of stuff. So I'll take the onus on that I do apologize that the appropriate paperwork was not in the packet. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Esposito. Any other comments? Seeing no other lights, Supervisor Sklitsky.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. To the chair of the committee, there's no apology necessary. You brought the resources here that we could ask direct questions for, and I've sat through, I don't even know the number of cabaret license applications, and I've never heard of one this controversial. So I don't need to see 50 more pages. I would rather have the actual individuals that were engaged in the incidents or that are making the recommendation or either for or against here. I found that way more valuable. So I appreciate what the committee has done for clarifying, for getting the individuals here so that we could get firsthand knowledge about it. And I just wanted to pass along my gratitude for the chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Sklitsky. Seeing no other lights, there's a roll call requested. How are they voting? Yes is a no? It's a motion to, the motion is to approve. So yes is to approve, no is to deny. He just moved the resolution.
The resolution is written says approved. The motion was move the resolution in order to get the debate going. There was a motion to refer to committee. Did we have a vote on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to clear the board again. Yes is to approve the cabaret license, no is to deny the cabaret license.
Fails 2 yes, 14 no.
Okay, so the cabaret license has been denied.
Moving on.
County Clerk?
Resolution 76, From Judiciary and Law Enforcement Committee, a resolution to approve the probationary cabaret license for Grumpies Bar and Grill. Esposito, yes. Anita Johnson excused. Boyd Frederick, yes. Arrington, yes. Ron Johnson, yes. Blau excused. Poole, yes.
Hold on a second, I lost my board.
What'd she do? No, that one.
Call it?
I think you just hit the individual. Oh, that's fine.
Hold on.
So, how did you do that?
I don't know. I went to hit the clear. There we go. Okay.
Okay, we're on 76.
We're on 76.
Esposito.
I got you.
Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move Resolution 76.
I have a first by Supervisor Esposito and a second by Supervisor Boyd Frederick. Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you. This is a cabaret license, probationary cabaret license for Grumpy's Pub and Grub. It's located at 28624 Wilmot Road in Trevor. The Sheriff's Department had done a full inspection. They had submitted their approval, and I asked for your approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Esposito. I see no lights on here. This is a simple majority. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. Motion passes.
Resolution 77 from Judiciary, Law, and Finance Administration Committee, a resolution regarding the Wisconsin DOT Bureau of Transportation Safety Alcohol Enforcement Grants 2015-2016. Esposito, yes. Anita Johnson excused. Boyd Frederick, yes. Arrington, yes. Blau excused. Ron Johnson, yes. Poole, yes. Finance, Rose, yes. Ron Frederick, yes. O'Day, yes. Brunig, yes. Dodge excused. Gens, yes. Colmeyer, yes.
Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move Resolution 77.
I have a first by Supervisor Esposito and a second by Supervisor Rose. Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you. This is the Wisconsin DOT Bureau of Transportation Safety BOTS alcohol enforcement grants. Kenosha County Sheriff's Department has partnered with the Racine County Sheriff's Department to participate in traffic control enforcement grants offered by the Wisconsin Department of Transportation Bureau, which is known as BOTS. This resolution requires no funds from the general fund. It increases the revenues by $8,407 and increases the expenditures by $8,407. So I ask for your approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Esposito. Seeing no lights on the board, this is a budget modification, 2/3 requested or required. Roll call. Motion passes. County Clerk?
Resolution 78 from Judiciary and Law and Finance Administration Committees, a resolution regarding the 2015 traffic control for Amazon Fulfillment Center, recognize revenue earned and modify expenditure budgets. Esposito, yes. Anita Johnson excused. Boyd Frederick, yes. Arrington, yes. Leah Blau excused. Ron Johnson, yes. Poole, yes. Finance Administrative Rose, yes. Ron Frederick, yes. O'Day, yes. Brunig, yes. Dodge excused. Gens, yes. Colmeyer, yes.
Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you. I move Resolution 78.
I have a first by Supervisor Esposito and a second by Supervisor O'Day. Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you. This is resolution is regards to traffic control for Amazon Fulfillment Center. They had contacted the Sheriff's Department in regards to their high volume of traffic. So basically, it's kind of what I could attribute to is kind of a country thunder thing. They're going to pay our deputies to work overtime or on their off days, so on and so forth, to deal with some of this controlled traffic issue. There's no financial burden to the taxpayer at all. They're paying for everything that they're going to use the Sheriff's Department for, so I ask for your approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Esposito. Supervisor Retzlaff, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a quick question. I assume This is for, that the Sheriff's Department's fine with this, is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no other lights. This is a budget modification. Roll call is requested. Motion passes. County Clerk?
Resolution 79 from the Judiciary and Law and Finance Administration Committees, a resolution regarding the 2015 HMEP WEM grant, Kenosha County Commodity Flow Study Training Needs Assessment. Judiciary and Law, Esposito, yes. Anita Johnson excused. Boyd Frederick, yes. Arrington, yes. Leah Blau excused. Ron Johnson, yes. Poole, yes. Finance, Rose, yes. Ron Frederick, yes. O'Day, yes. Brunig, yes. Dodge excused. Gens, yes. Kohlmeyer, yes.
Supervisor Esposito?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move Resolution 80?
I have a first.
79, I'm sorry. 79.
I have a first by Supervisor Esposito and a second by Supervisor Gens. Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you. Kenosha County Sheriff's Department has received a grant to basically start the flow study training assessment for the next resolution that's coming before us in regarding the rail plan creation as far as catastrophes or disasters. So it costs the taxpayers no money. It's levy neutral as far as that goes, so I ask for your approval.
Thank you, Supervisor Esposito. Seeing no lights, this is a 2/3 vote. Roll call requested. Motion passes. County Clerk?
Resolution 80 from the Judiciary and Law and Finance Administration Committees, a resolution regarding the 2015 HMEP WEM grant, Kenosha County Rail Plan Creation. Esposito, yes. Johnson excused. Boyd Frederick, yes. Arrington, yes. Blau excused. Ron Johnson, yes. Poole, yes. Finance, Rose, yes. Ron Frederick, yes. O'Day, yes. Brunig, yes. Dodge excused. Gens, yes. Kohlmeyer, yes.
Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move Resolution 80.
I have a first by Supervisor Esposito and a second by Supervisor Ron Frederick. Supervisor Esposito.
Again, this is the second part of this resolution. Resolution 79 was to set it up. This is to go forward with the rail plan creation, basically for we have a lot of rail that comes in and out of Kenosha County back and forth in regards to some type of disaster or problems that could be created in relationship to that. This resolution requires no funds, as did the other one from the general fund. It increases revenues by $6,246.66 and increasing expenditures by $6,246.66. So I ask for your approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Esposito. Seeing no lights, this is a budget modification. 2/3 vote required. Motion passes. County Clerk?
Resolution 81 from the Planning, Development, Extension, Education Committee, a resolution requesting that the Kenosha County Board approve the third edition of the Kenosha County Land and Water Resource Management Plan 2017-2026. Noble, yes. Decker, yes. Galitsky, yes. Retzloff, yes. Gable, yes.
Supervisor Decker?
Move Resolution 81.
I have a first by Supervisor Decker and a second by Supervisor Gable. Supervisor Decker.
This resolution would approve the third edition of the Kenosha County Land and Water Resource Management Plan 2017 to 2026. The plan has been updated to maintain and/or improve conservation program efforts throughout Kenosha County, allowing the county to remain eligible for state program grant funding. The plan was reviewed by the Kenosha County Land and Water Conservation Committee on September 30th, 2015, and the Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee on October 4th, 2015. Final submittal to the Kenosha County Board of Supervisors was held awaiting final approval by the State of Wisconsin Land and Water Conservation Board, which has now been received.
Thank you, Supervisor Decker. Seeing no lights, this is a simple majority. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. County Clerk?
Resolution 82 from Public Works, Facilities, and Finance Administration Committees, a resolution to approve the jurisdictional transfer agreement of a segment of Springbrook Court from Kenosha County to the Village of Pleasant Prairie. Public Works, Elverman, yes. Grady, yes. Boyd Frederick, yes. Skalitsky, yes. Poole, yes. Finance, Rose, yes. Ron Frederick, yes. O'Day, yes. Brunig, yes. Dodge, excused. Gens, yes. Colmeyer, yes.
Supervisor Elverman?
I'd move resolution, is it 82 this evening?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a first by Supervisor Elverman, second by Supervisor Rose. Supervisor Elverman.
Thank you. The resolution you have before you is a cleanup of some jurisdictional transfer. I brought these before you numerous times, but this was done 15, 20 years ago. If you wonder why that little picture looks a little funny, why there was 600 feet there not involved, it was, the county believed it was, Pleasant Prairie did, but it wasn't documented by the state properly at the time. And there's that little section that needs to be properly documented. So we're bringing you this resolution. It is in the hands of Pleasant Prairie. It is in their hands because it is much better serving for them to be in charge of that, so we ask for your approval.
Thank you, Supervisor Elverman. Seeing no lights on the board, this is a simple majority. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. County Clerk?
Communications from Andy Ambula regarding future items scheduled before the Planning, Development, Extension, Education Committee.
Receive and file.
Summons and complaint, Martin Mendoza Sanchez versus David Beth, civil rights violation.
Refer to Corporation Counsel.
Claims, State Farm Insurance, Joe Walski, vehicle damage.
Refer to Corporation Counsel.
Adam Peter McKnight, vehicle damage.
Refer to Corporation Counsel.
Gary Schindel, vehicle damage.
Refer to Corporation Counsel.
Brianna Polly, vehicle damage.
And refer to Corporation Counsel.
Approval of the January 19th, 2016 minutes by Supervisor Poole.
Supervisor Poole?
So moved.
I have a first by Supervisor Poole and a second by Supervisor Esposito. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Second. You guys are too fast. Who made the motion to adjourn? Oh, second. All in favor to adjourn?
Aye.
Thank you. We are adjourned.